You're listening to the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. An hour of informative commentary on today's headlines, current events, and what's going on around the world and around the corner. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Jaye Darden.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Life in General podcast here with Tom and Jaye, coming at you live from sunny Ecuador and now sunny Tennessee for the time being. We'll see how long that lasts. This is episode 48 coming at you live there. I'm pretty sure it's 48, and now we're kind of losing count. Once we get too close to 50, we won't know what's going on anymore, and we'll kind of be out of whack there. So excellent stuff. We're going to start this episode off the same way we do every time and ask the man of the hour how he is down in Ecuador, about an inch away from the sun, and see what's going on. So, hey, Dad, how are you?
I'm doing very well. We relocated the studios.
Hey, well, you say studios, not this studio, your studio down there.
This studio. That's it, we relocated this studio. So, and they had to run all new internet line and everything to get the fiber optics in because they're slightly behind here. You know, they're not, it's not supersonic, but they're working on it.
Well, when we say slightly behind, think about it like this, you lovely listeners out there. If we're at 5G and that's becoming the standard, they're on 3G. So it's a scenario where if you were stranded down there, you wouldn't hate yourself, but it wouldn't be pleasant. So
right,
it would be
I'm not
something
talking on the moon. Let's put it that way. You know?
Yeah, but you are talking to somebody 3,000 miles away, so we're making it work the best we can. So
that's right.
Good stuff down there, and I think somebody just celebrated a birthday here recently, very possibly. How did that go?
My wife can no longer say she's in her 50s.
Okay, you'll pay for that one later. Sorry out there.
When she sees it, she's gonna go, what?
Yeah, that's it. It's like, So, yeah, while up. I was gonna say we're also dating the episode a little bit as well. We appreciate y'all's patience out there, but as we're moving, as we're changing the world. It takes a little bit longer to get things going. So really appreciate that. And we love all of our subs out there, all of our viewers. If you're not subs, like, comment, subscribe, get that out of the way. We're going to appease the algorithms there. Praise the YouTube overlords for letting us, talk nonsense for an hour at you all as we do. So good stuff there. Up here it's, we're doing April weather stuff, so one day it's 80, and the next day it's 30, and we'll get to do that for a month and see what's going on. So,
interestingly enough, here Easter week is called Holy Week. Okay. So they start with Good Friday,
right,
and then through the weekend, which it encompasses Easter, but they do the whole week. It's called Holy Week, and I mean there's several parades of people.
Sure.
And marches, and there's people carrying crosses and big crosses and stuff.
Oh yeah,
groups of people. So it's they're pretty religious down here and pretty intense into their holidays and their religions and stuff.
An interesting topic for a future episode would be what is the breakdown demographically of the religions that are done down there. Because
that'd be Catholic.
Well, right, but my point is to look at it and ask why and yada yada. The big thing being, you don't see a whole lot of that happening in the streets here, right? Because we understand that there is a freedom of religion practice, but like a doctrine, you can say, hey, you can practice whatever you want, but it's not going to be to that degree where, like, they'll have pilgrimages out in other countries as well, where they'll go and out in Spain, they'll do the long holy walk, right? There are sorts of things like that where they seem either more prevalent because they've been going on longer, or people just kind of, it might be where it's not a narrower demographic, it's more of actually a broader, right? So more people are into that sort of lifestyle, and people, like, they kind of fold it into their culture seamlessly. And what I do find interesting is that you don't see a lot of folks complaining that they're doing that sort of thing there, when if they did it up here, people would be losing their minds because it would be love for this means automatic hatred for that. So just thought that was kind of interesting. But anywho,
one of the interesting things I found here, and when we were talking about Holy Week and us not being native from here, that in Guayaquil, which is the big city where the international airport is, they've built steps to the top of the mountain.
Oh yeah,
and they put the amount of steps in that Jesus carried the cross.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, and it's like 422 or 427. I'm not specific on it, but it goes up the side of a mountain to the top where they have a monument up there at the very top of this, one of the highest peaks in the city. And it's really interesting because you can walk those steps. You can get out there, and if you so desire to go up, all those steps, you can go to the top of that mountain. And so we'll wait
to see on the Tom's going out segment for a later episode, you climbing up those steps with the GoPro, and then the head will be hanging down, so the camera's hanging down, right? I'm like,
it'll be down like I don't how many more of these I can do. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
That's pretty cool. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today, recently, it was on social media or somewhere out there in the great internet. I'm sure everyone's heard or have been talking about. There was recent legislation that is about capping insulin prices. Because originally they wanted to, and I say both parties kind of go back and forth on what angle or position they have at any given time, depending on the timing of it, right? Or the current situation. In this case, it seemed as though Democrats want to cap insulin. Well, they folded it into a bill, folded into like a mega structural bill, / movement sort of thing, and said, okay, well, look, this is never going to work. Like, we need to figure out, hey, pull things out, break them into tiny little bite-sized pieces so we can tackle issues one at a time, right? And to try to get something to be pushed through. And it was a scenario, as most things are, where they said, okay, cool, we'll break it out, we'll try to do this, try to get people's support on it, and let's cap insulin prices, because insulin is something that type 1s and type 2 diabetics need. You can replace in type 2 certain things with like metformin. There are definitely other substances out there, but this is something that these folks need to continue to function normally, right? To continue to live and be functioning as is. And
what does that do? Does that regulate your... what does it regulate?
Are you asking me how your pancreas works and it needs insulin, to my knowledge?
Well, I just wondered what the insulin did for you.
Well, what occurs is we will do a little bit of here. So what is it used for? And I do know that it's helping your body. So it's regulating blood sugar. Right.
Okay.
And so what'll happen is a lot of I think it's your pancreas. It's going to say that ceases to produce, of course, insulin in this case. And so your body can't metabolize certain things correctly at the right parts of the body. Right.
Okay.
Something where we would say, hey, you would need like dialysis in that case, where it would filter out stuff out of the blood if it got to a certain point, right, where your kidneys are doing that sort of thing. So it just kind of depends on what part of the body it is. I'm no nurse, obviously. The rest of my family is. And so it's just something where your pancreas can't break down certain chemicals in the blood, and then it needs insulin to regulate your blood. It's like your blood sugar levels or blood glucose levels. So,
okay,
kind of wild. We'll have someone much smarter than us try to come on and comment down below how incorrect we are and let us know what's going on. But insulin is definitely needed to regulate that sort of a function, because your body can no longer do it naturally for whatever reason. You can be born with it. You can develop it over time. It really depends. It could be hereditary. Several different things can go down there. So, with that being said, there was a representative who posted out there into the aether, because remember, Twitter's not a real place, folks. I don't know what people think and whatnot, but that's not a real place. It's not a place where discussion happens cordially or even intellectually. Oftentimes, it's just spitting fire from both directions. But Matt Gaetz, I believe is how you say this name, or Gatz, he was talking about in this thread, and I'll try to post it up on the screen here, where we shouldn't be capping insulin prices. People should just get healthier and lose weight. And it was something that just kind of blew my mind, that it seemed where that was it seemed very Trump-like, if that makes sense, where it's just, blah, there it is. It's kind of like word vomiting, where there's not a whole lot of tact. And it's something too, like we're considering, okay, do we cap things on insulin? Okay, well, if that's the case and that sets a precedent there, what are we looking to do in like, how's that going to cascade, right? Because if we cap this, now we can start capping everything. Okay, well, then that could go into a potentially negative space. I don't really see the problem with putting caps on lots of things, but now that's a topic for another time, essentially. But not wanting to put a cap on like stuff like pharmaceuticals, where people need it to live. Okay, well, at that point, is that person going to be, reelected because they said, okay, well, stop being fat and you won't need as much insulin? As opposed to...
Do you have to be large to need insulin?
Oh, no.
Okay. I mean, I'm just asking.
No, there are type 1 diabetics who are like this big around. I mean, that's not the case, right? So it's a scenario where it seems as though it was a little bit disingenuous or possibly ill-informed, and it's something that you would think, okay, well... It feels very much pick yourself up by your bootstrap sort of like mentality, which I know a lot of folks very much hate, because it makes it seem as though life's going to be unfair, so deal with it and just kind of build yourself up. When in reality, as we know, life is difficult, yes, but that doesn't mean we don't need to take the opportunities to make it better / more fair or fairer when the opportunity presents itself. So it's kind of a weird dynamic there. So
what about infant diabetes? I mean, if they were born and they're little people, they can't help it.
Right.
I mean, they're not fat because they're not old enough to be considered, fat.
Sure.
Like we are. So
okay, cool. Listen up.
How do you do that? How do you not give those people the insulin, the little infants that need? And I'll say, boys and girls. I said it. How do you not?
Well,
hey, Mickey.
I would say this: it's not that you're not giving it to them; it's capping the price.
Can you afford it? Right? Can you afford to medicate your child?
Because there have been stories online where folks they're paying $1,000 a month for insulin, and it's something where we already talk about and are getting frustrated with inflation, things of that sort, and talking about percentages and budgeting and whatnot, where your housing shouldn't have to be more than X percentage of your monthly earnings, no matter what it is. Because in reality, if you spend 60% of your income on your housing or things of that sort, where it takes up way too much of the proverbial pie, then you're not going to be able to save anything. You're going to be destroyed when an emergency comes around. There's going to be several things that are against you, and you'll be against the wall forever, and people won't be able to get ahead or try to even be able to catch up. So
isn't Dave Ramsey's formula 25% for housing of your monthly budget?
It's like 25 or 30%, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was not. I remembered it being not to exceed, like you said, 25 to 30. No, definitely no more than 30%.
And that's fair. And he has helped quite a bit of people, but he also now has the assets to be one of the big entities. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's been saying the same thing over and over and over for 20 years. And ain't nobody, people are listening to him, but they're not hearing him.
Some people are, but
I'm not taking up for him, but I'm just saying that he says the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like, are y'all not getting this?
Okay, well, that's very fair.
Years,
That's fair. Okay, well, let's flip that a little bit then, because I think that's an interesting kind of point. Is he's been saying the same thing for years, and he has been successful with it.
Yes.
Okay, but remember, everyone's story is different, right? So if folks have tried and not done well, okay, you gotta understand this too. Like, there aren't that, well, I say that, there's like over 700 billionaires now in the U.S., which is insane. So it's hard to say, there aren't many people like Dave Ramsey. Well, now that's just getting more and more, and so now the gap is getting larger and larger when it comes to what the 1% of 1% is versus... like the 1% of 1% versus, the lowest 99, right? I mean, the gap's becoming insane. So it's definitely something where we're like, oh, this is kind of weird. Why is this happening and whatnot? But,
did he say cap it or not cap it?
So Matt Gaetz says, do not cap insulin prices. People should get healthier.
Okay, so he wants them to just keep going up where people can't afford them because they're too fat in the first place.
Right. So
or too out of shape, I should say. They're not healthy.
His point is, if people got healthier, made better choices, pick themselves up, very much a Republican thing to think about, or a conservative thing to think about, is help yourself first and then have help, after the fact. But let's break this down a little bit more when it comes to, okay, let's get healthier. Okay, well, now my insulin, and I'll just use myself as a faux example, saying, okay, because I don't take insulin, knock on wood, but let's say it's $1,000 for me, or even $500 for me right now. Okay. And I am what I am, and that's all that I am. So it takes time, right, to lose weight, as we all know. Everyone who's out there who's ever been on a fad diet, has ever been on a non-fad diet, made lifestyle changes, etc., you don't lose it overnight, right? So if this legislation could go through faster, well then, hey, maybe it will give me the opportunity to work on X, Y, and Z, possibly buying healthier food. But amazingly enough, it's cheap to eat terribly in the U.S., right?
Yes.
It's a shitload more expensive to eat healthy.
Yes, it is.
When it comes to things that are like especially processed or fresh food, things of that sort, or even have something that would be regulated. Like a couple of my buddies utilize HelloFresh, which is a company that will send you meals, right? HelloFresh will say, cool, here's your meal. Here is a god-awful load of trash because they individually had to package everything, right? All the herbs, all the meats and herbs and shit like that. And then you can eat your meals like that. And I don't know how many come in a package, but it's like Blue Apron, stuff like that. We're not sponsored by these people, but let us know if you want us to be. I got to sneak it in there, man, whenever I can.
That's right. Yeah,
but
that's right.
It's something where that shit costs money, but now, granted, that's good, pretty fresh food that's, high in vitamins and minerals and all of these things. Like,
so is a bucket of fried chicken that you just picked up.
Right. And so when you buy the friggin' family meal and don't pull the skin off of it like a psychopath, then it's like, oh, well, that was $8 for, a pound and a half of chicken. And then this was $50. This is $50 for, a week's worth of meals, essentially, or possibly just a few days. And here you are. So when we talk about do the right thing first, then you'll get help. And I think that's a biblical thing somewhere. I'll have to read the verse. Tell us down below in the comments what that verse is, talking about help yourself first and then you'll get help. But to a degree, if you're looking at it from a corporate greed standpoint, okay, why does it cost that much money to help people continue to function?
Right.
So,
I understand.
Feels a little soapboxy, but I thought that was a wild ass topic, and for somebody to actually have kind of the gall to say, well, just get healthier. And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, if we disincentivized overall, like kind of as a country, for us to not be just kind of blobs. I mean, I am 3 chicken sandwiches away from being Jabba the Hutt, but it's like that's the incentive, right? Is indulge, like sugar, all of this stuff. I mean, corn syrup, this stuff's in everything, and it's addictive to a degree where it's working on your body's limbic system, right? Like your reward system. So it's wild on a molecular level, but we don't regulate that sort of thing. So it's like, well, hey, there you go. So
yeah, that's pretty interesting. And vote him out in November. He's a representative that probably needs to be voted out anyway.
Be, yeah.
So vote them all out and start over again.
Could be. Yeah, and so also speaking of kind of like inflation's prices and whatnot, we'll kind of segue into this a little bit. Gas prices have been actually going down, which is kind of interesting. However, when I saw this, my immediate thought was coming back to this podcast and saying, well, look, gas prices, are going down, and they went down by like 50 cents in a short amount of time. So it was like, $4 or so, like $4 or so last week or the week before, and then now it's like $3.50. So I thought about this podcast, and I immediately had the assumption I was going to bring this up, and the initial reaction by you would be, well, look, they raised the prices up. Now they got you all in a tizzy. And then before election, since it is April and it's happening in November, they're going to start to wind things down, bring it kind of back down after they stirred up bases and whatnot, and say, well, look what we did. We brought down gas prices.
Well, they've made a ton of money over the last, let's just say 6 months or so.
Oh, yeah.
The oil companies have gouged everybody and made a ton of money, so they can afford to back off a little bit. I'm sure it's kind of like the vaccine company. They've made an obscene amount of money too, but they want you to get that 3rd and 4th shot there, boys and girls.
Oh, do they? I actually was talking to a buddy who, a buddy of mine, his sister got like one of the boosters possibly in the regular vaccine and whatnot, and her doctor told him when she went back, because she has some health issues and whatnot, that she's like, hey, do I need to get the next thing? And they said no, the medicine is too good now, and the procedures that we have, like we can beat this pretty easily, as long as there's not just, of course, a tidal wave of sick people, essentially. And I thought, and the Life in General podcast is in no way admonish people getting vaccines, boosters in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But that little niche story there was very much kind of indicative to, okay, it seems like that sort of thing is kind of blown by now. It's kind of like where some things have changed and they'll never go backwards, right? And then some things will go right back to the way that they were, just because. I think,
they're going to go up and down like this. They're going to get you and make you to do stuff, and then they're going to go, well, maybe not, for no long. Oh, wait, you got to start doing it.
Maybe.
Yeah, because they've only got a few more months, and then hopefully it'll be a wipeout, and people will get in there and start taking care of business. So
well, and it's something too where they may, but I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change, and especially it ain't going to happen fast.
No, nobody will get anything done.
Yeah,
because Slow Joe will be proposing to do this or signing this legislation, and then he'll have to try to get it through the Senate or through the House of Representatives, and they're not going to have any part of it. So it's just going to be like one of these, and they get nothing done for the next 3 years. The coolest thing, though, talking about Slow Joe, was when he gave a speech and turned around to shake somebody's hand. There wasn't anybody there.
Okay.
They're loving that. I mean,
I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, they're out of their minds. They're like, look at this, cognitive mess right here. He's turning around and sticking his hand out to shake somebody's hand, and there was nobody standing behind him on the podium at all. And he just turned around and was just like lost. He didn't know what to do, and his handlers weren't handling it very well.
Well,
get him off the stage.
Now to give no one credit ever, right? Because that's just not what we're in the business of. Right. If I was the president of the United States, I wouldn't know whether to wave or salute. There would literally be so much information happening and so much stuff that you just had to ingest and all that. I mean, it to a point, it just feels like you're beating up an old man, you know?
Yeah. That's why we don't need another old man in there.
Well, that's very fair, and can't wait to see who the possible candidates might be. We
said it before and say it again. Get him out.
Yeah,
because he's too old, and we don't need Trump back in there. We do not need Trump back in there because they'll focus more on what color his tie is than rather than doing the stuff they need to focus on. So
yeah, that's very fair.
It's been interesting. I haven't seen a lot of the container ships coming and going.
Oh, really? That's kind of wild.
In and out of the port.
Oh, no, that's not wild. Scary. My apologies. No, that's not wild in the slightest. That's actually one of our next topics. So you segued that perfectly until I derailed it.
Thank you.
I
was trying.
Yeah, I know. Hey, yeah, you teed it up flawlessly, and then I forgot how to play baseball. Speaking, yeah. It's like, hello, McFly.
Well, actually, I figured since it wasn't due till Monday.
Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think McFly.
You gotta throw that in there. So that's a good point, and that's actually kind of interesting that you're not seeing it on the water where you're at, because you're very you're this close to the beach too, and Shanghai is actually on phase 2 of its lockdown, where it went straight up 2020 March COVID levels of lockdown. Doom. Close the gates, barring people in. Don't leave your home ever.
Don't they have the military out there and stuff?
Yeah, like I
stuff?
said, straight up 2020 March, April level. You're in, you're locked in. We'll, leave you little goodie bags outside the door. So there's literally don't come out and interact with folks. I saw on a show today, having to catch up a little bit, that that stuff was getting violent. They're barring you in, and they're getting bloody with it, man.
They?
Yeah,
aren't they hitting the streets anyway?
Oh, well, for sure. You're never going to have a true, lockdown level event just because people are people, right?
Yeah.
So
a complete lockdown.
Right.
Never
it's ghost town levels.
Everybody's gone.
The tumbleweeds going, etc., but one thing that, and to that end, you're not seeing as many container ships. Well, China's Shanghai port is, obviously one of the largest. Taiwan, you got several ports there, Kaohsiung, Taipei, and then, of course, in China, you have Shanghai, and so many that I'm not even going to try to mispronounce because I don't want to get flamed. Several ports out there, and the fact that this entire port's been shut down for a hot minute is, I'm sure, one of the reasons you're not seeing as many vessels, because they're just not coming out of the port, right? The port shut down. It's kind of like the no soup for you sort of thing, like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, and it's slowing stuff down. And it's interesting to me on that perspective. I was talking to another buddy of mine about this. It's incredible that it's incredible to me that they didn't that hasn't bled over to us, if that makes sense. They haven't said, well, look what they're doing in China, and then think, oh, well, we need to do that here. At where now, I hear nothing about it. Now, granted, I don't watch the news a ton, but there's not a large influence like there was, where we would be looking at other developed countries and saying, well, they're doing this, we should start looking at doing that. Right, we should do this. Oh, wait, we should start looking at that, because I don't think our infrastructure could handle it a second time, like a second cycle of those shenanigans. So,
Yeah, and Dr. Lyon Fauci's out there spreading all that stuff again about you need to do this, you need to do that. So
He's out there spouting that stuff all over again, you mean?
yeah, yeah. Get another shot, and there's a new variant coming, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's just it's out of control, man. It's out of control. But like we've said before, nobody's going to do anything about it.
That's fair.
Nobody's going to do anything about it.
Well, it's also kind of a point too, as you love to say. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, well, people go along to get along.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it doesn't affect them.
Well, it does to minor degrees.
Like the people up there where you are, they've stopped wearing masks in
everywhere.
A multitude, a multitude of places. Down here, they still have the mask around their face, but it's not over their nose, and sometimes it's under their chin. But let's see, I think it was a week ago or 10 days.
Yeah,
they stopped checking your vaccination card when you went into the mall.
Oh, sure.
The mall, they don't check anymore, but they make sure you got a mask on, and they're still wanding everybody for weapons.
The wanding thing really, really throws me for a loop because you said that wasn't always the case.
No, they've only been doing that for probably about 60 days.
I would love, to know the
electric wand. They tell you put your hands out, and they
T-pose, T-pose out there,
yeah. And so they and if you've got a backpack, sometimes they'll open it up and go through it. Some of the people that coming in there, and they don't bother an old man like me because I'm not carrying nothing. I go in there, and I always,
we know you're carrying something. You're carrying sass. You're carrying an attitude.
Dance. I'm out there doing the dance while they're wanting me, and they just chuckle, and I chuckle and go on, But at one point, they were spraying your hands when you came in, with sanitizer, and they were checking your vaccine card, and they're wanting you, and they'll back off of that. I think more and more they'll start to back away from that because we've got one of the lowest infection rates in the world. Here
I'm sure,
and one of the highest vaccinated rates. And one of the highest booster rates. So
something that
at some point
I would like to see is it highest infection rates versus population who reportedly has the disease, or is it highest infection rates when it comes to testing and having negative test results?
Okay, well, I don't know.
Well, the angle I'm getting at is you might have one of the highest non-infectious rates, but if you're not taking as many tests,
right,
it's going to be low by default, right?
You're right. You're right.
Something that would be kind of fun to delve into just to see, okay, what do these numbers actually mean? Because statistics are something that can flabbergast even the smartest of folks because of what they mean, what like a deviation is, what's going from point to point, how big or from one number to the next, how big of a jump that is by comparison of what's actually relative, and it's wild. So
right,
but kind of cool there.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I still have to get I still have to have a negative COVID test within 24 hours of coming into the United States.
That seems like it's just such a short window.
It used to be 72 hours, and they squeezed it to 24. Mm-hmm. And yes, that's a very short window. So if you're flying out at 8 o'clock in the morning, as is such the case with me, then I've got to get it, anytime after 8 o'clock the day before. But then you worry about them giving you your results. That's a short window to call and go, I can't make that flight because I've got COVID,
right.
Yeah. So
well, you would hope that they would have it kind of baked into the cake that you'd get a refund or a updated flight or whatever.
Right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully, I'll get a test the day before I come up there, and rock on in. So
well, and that's something too. You look at the little parts of it, right? Where hopefully they have something in place where you get your money back, but also a lot of times when people go places, it's not just them functioning differently for a period of time, right?
Right.
In this example, of course, I've taken some time off. People are traveling around to interact and whatnot, and it's something that it just throws everything out of whack, and even the smallest level of functioning, right? Because even just taking a trip, right? I mean, of course, it can end in much worse ways, as we've seen before, but it's a powerful force. Whether or not we want to give it the reverence it requires, it's still something not to mess with or take lightly. So,
and God bless the TSA and all they do. But in Miami, when Pat went through Miami, she said it's still, they have 35 pass-through windows, okay, lined up. It looks like a bowling alley because there's a screen above each one of the pass-through windows with a number on it and stuff. And they'll only have about 4 out of 35, or maybe 5 out of 35 of those windows open.
Yeah.
And you'll have 500 people backed up trying to get through customs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of you showing them your passport, and they take your passport and they look at you, or they run it across a machine and then they hand it back to you.
You mean unless you got global entry?
That's correct. Yeah. But it's like, I don't understand why they can't fix that at a large port of entry like that, when they know they're going to, because I'll hit that baby about 11 o'clock Eastern time. So on a Tuesday.
Okay. So
I can't wait to see how that pans out.
That's very fair. But look at the logistics of the entire scenario, right? Do you think they want 500 people in the airport suddenly, where it's like a freaking mob just every time a plane comes in? It's just boom, there it is. Versus,
that's what they have now. That's what they have. They've got them. They're all like cows going into the
that's the point. That's the point. They're being filtered, so they come back in slowly, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 people at a time to the interior. Versus, okay, it's just one giant wave of folks all the time. So look at it from a standpoint of they might be doing that on purpose when, they might be able to schedule 10, 15, 20 more people, but that's going to put a larger strain on the step after those folks, right? Because, as people get off of a plane, it's a perfect example, right? They go to... If it's not customs, and they got to go to the baggage claim thing, right? Well,
correct.
If you have a line of people trickling into the baggage claim thing, as opposed to 200 people on there instantaneously, it makes it a lot less chaotic.
Okay.
So that might be by design. We don't know what they're thinking or how they're thinking, but it's also something too where it kind of shows you, like, let's say it is a test of patience, right? Where you're getting out there, it's 4 a.m, 5 a.m. We both been there, and it takes forever, and you're sitting there like, being a zombie, no coffee, none of that. And you get there, and then if you get uppity with that little customs officer person, you're screwed. Like, you're
correct.
Fucked. So
you're correct.
Let's say somebody's on edge anyways, and this person actually was doing something nefarious. Yeah, I know, right? Let's say they actually wanted to do something nefarious. It would be a lot easier to spot and trigger that person than it would be if it was just everybody was coming in 10, 20, 30 at a time versus, okay, we're going to trickle you in. It's going to take time, but that's by design. Because
you figure this, though, there's probably 300 people on the plane I'm on.
Yeah.
So about 250, 300 people get off that plane and go into the cow corral, I'll call it, all at the same time. Now, if you've got a connector like I do, then you start sweating.
Right.
Because I've only got 2 hours and 5 minutes between my connecting flights. So I've got to get
but it's not their fault. You connected with that other flight in such a short amount of time. You're doing it to be fast.
No, it's the airline's fault.
It's the airline's fault. Oh, yeah, right, of course.
I didn't want the flight to take 18 hours and have 2 stops in
Right.
Miami, Dallas, Charlotte, and then back to Nashville.
Well, and the big thing too is we've discussed this a little bit before, and I've talked about it with my friends and stuff. Is people are not companies are not incentivized to be fast when it comes to there's more opportunity to sell you more things as you go. I forget who it was. I was talking about somebody this week on this very specific topic where. Why in the world would they want to get you out of the store faster when the longer you're in the store is their goal because they can sell you more things?
Right. Makes sense.
I mean, so now it's a scenario where, oh, you want to have a real quick flight? Well, we're going to keep you on the edge of your freaking seat the entire time because you chose to be fast when you left that in the hands of God, essentially, because they don't have to be fast in the slightest, right? You're up to their mercy, even though you're the customer. And so, to that end, they either want to make you get global entry, which makes that process much faster, okay? But that's paying more, right? That's paying more, being more regulated. Or they want to say, well, get a different connecting flight because, oh, you missed your flight. Oh, well, go sit in the airport for another 2-3 hours. And, well, you're going to get bored. You're going to go to the bar. You're going to spend $20 a piece on White Russians. And your tab just has gone up by an extra $100, $200. And so it's worked perfectly for them. And it has just sucked for you. Okay. But it's a scenario where it's not supposed to be better for you. That's just not the case in this scenario, it seems like.
Do you have any good news about my trip?
Oh, no, not in the slightest. I felt I foreshadowed it perfectly when you asked, would you be happy up here? And I said, no, not at all. So it's all good. If we're just that's kind of the nature of the beast, you're just coming back into the belly of it all. So the place where chaos is born, good old America.
Yeah. Speaking of chaos.
Yeah, chaos indeed. Go for it.
Yeah, the new Supreme Court justice. I don't see. I didn't say how she got approved.
Okay.
I know she did.
Yeah, I mean she did.
But I just don't. After all the things that they brought up about her and all the past decisions and things that she had rendered, I just found it surprising that that she got the confirmation. I just did because they tried to confirm a young black woman in the Bush era, but for Supreme Court justice for an opening, and nobody would have any part of it because she was a Republican.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, she had been leaning on the Republican or conservative side, so they wouldn't even bring her. They wouldn't even bring her name to the floor to be considered.
So then, how did we know that they were that person existed? If that makes sense. How do we know?
One of the Bushes. No, she was a federal district court judge.
Oh, okay.
And
gotcha.
One of the Bushes, I don't know if it was George or HW or whoever, ABC or DFG,
sure.
One of them. Yeah. Was going to put her up for confirmation, and they said, don't even bother. The Senate and the House of Representatives Congress said, don't even bother because she's a Republican and we're not even going to entertain it. And I think that's a sign of the times right there, brother. Right there. It's a sign of the times.
You said that was during the first Bush era?
One Bush. I don't know if it was the Holly Bush or if it was
I was going to say
Bush or the Rose Bush. I don't remember.
Tit in the hands were two in the bush, I think is saying there. So two Bush, one Bush. Who knows who's Bush?
Yeah.
When you knew that old Jeb Bush, when he was on the campaign trail, this is in a JonTron, like a little funny YouTube video, and they said they were making light of the fact when good old Jeb was like, go ahead and clap, clap for me, and then the crowd around him was not roused in the slightest, so he was just begging for applause, and it was just chef's kiss.
Wow.
Too good of a thing there. But now, sign of the times, I agree. Excuse me, sign of the times, but that led me to want to ask, okay, you don't know how this person got thrust into their their recently appointed position.
Right.
Two things, and you can take as much time as this as you need. One, why do you think that she is not worthy? And two, what makes a person worthy of that position? So first, we'll go off, okay, why not her?
You were brought in because you were an African-American female, not because you were the best qualified or the most qualified. You were brought in strictly as the first two ingredients of your resume was that you were a female and you were African-American. Now, apparently the decisions that you've rendered, they don't matter in the past because you've done some radical things, especially with children and crimes against children and things like that. Her record is just atrocious.
Okay.
With in that area, and they brought that to the forefront, and then they said they were picking on her because of it. No, these are decisions that you've rendered, and these are things they've got them in writing, and they that you've written. But those they needed to. You can't. Just because she's a female and she's an African American, that it's the best qualified. It's not just what you are, who you are, or what you look like, or how old you are. Mm-hmm. Now they're starting to pressure another one of the justices. It's like 83 years old to retire.
Oh, to retire so they can get somebody else in.
So they can stick another who knows what person in there, before the Congress changes, so to speak. The flavor of Congress changes. Yeah, before it changes. I just don't. That's not the way you pick one. You pick the best qualified. You don't pick them because of how they look.
Something that's kind of interesting. A little bit of a tag on this is it doesn't since they've won. Okay, the Democrats in this case, and then they also got somebody else appointed. Okay, and then I don't hear them talking about packing the Supreme Court anymore or adding more justices. Where when someone else was in charge, that was their kind of goal or plan to, I don't want to say supplant anything, but to
have 13 justices.
13, 15, 21. Any odd number, right? Say, okay, well, we just need more. Okay, well, now we got to appoint them all. Well, wait a minute. Why is that? So in this case, I do find that kind of interesting to a degree where it's like, well, you're not arguing for that anymore because now you have the power, right? And then it just kind of shifts back and forth.
Maybe they would have, if they can talk the elder justice out that they're trying to get to go out and say they can't function right and all that. They're not going to. Clarence Thomas is not going to resign. They can forget that ball of bullshit. But the other justice, if they could get them out and get another person in there, then they could probably sway the court. That's why they don't need to pack it, because they could sway it one way or the other, I guess, with their appointees.
I got you.
I thought it was funny. I was reading a news feed, speaking of appointees, where Biden had appointed a new person to be over the ATF after the last one was such a bust. After the last guy was such a bust, and they ran him out on a rail. So he had to appoint a new person to be over ATF. So
I was going to say, is it Stephen Breyer? Is that the person?
I don't know who
the justice, Stephen G. Breyer. He's well, he was born in 1938, so that might be the person we're thinking of.
Is he 83 or 84 or something like that?
I was going to say, help us do our math really fast.
Yeah, really.
That sounds about right, because 22 to 38. Yeah, that's pretty close. But to that end,
your grandmother has a birthday May the 2nd. She'll be 93.
Yeah,
she'll be 93 years old.
Shout out to Mar. She'll outlive us all. So
hope maybe.
Anyway. Maybe, right? That'll be something, that's for sure.
Still jamming at 93 years old.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
So still kicking,
Yeah. So I don't know if they'll be able to get Stephen Breyer out and get somebody in there. If he's in good health, you know, they don't need to try to force him out. And you can forget about Clarence Thomas being the only African American male on the justice system. You can forget about messing with him because they won't stand for that either.
That's true. And it's something too where I often am thinking about this of, okay, it's the most qualified, right?
Right.
Okay.
Should be.
All right, that's fair. Okay. Now, one thing to look at there, that works until it doesn't. And what do I mean by that? So you'll have many instances where, and that's a meritocracy, and that's all well and good. However, if we look at scenarios where we take out fairness and we put in, okay, qualifications. Well, if we put 1-to-1 against this person versus that person, and we look at qualifications, well, and let's say in this instance, the other person, no matter what race, creed, gender, whatever they are, they didn't have the same opportunities. Well, do we continue to say, hey, it needs to be the most qualified when that can have other connotations versus let's give folks a chance? Because remember, if they fail, well, then they fail, and we can always rectify certain mistakes, right? But it's a scenario where we got to look at the implications of people's decisions, right? So if we utilize this and say, okay, most qualified, well, that's fine. Well,
okay, but if you put them, let's just say let's do it this way. You have Judge Jackson, you have Judge Smith, Judge Williams, and you don't know if they're men or women.
Mm-hmm.
All you have is judge and their last name. And
you shouldn't even do it by their name. And the reason why I say that is because there are connotations there of, you know, this person sounding like they're X, Y, and Z versus this. That happens with interviews. Actually, statistically, let's say you do phone interviews. If you don't have a certain sounding name, you're not going to get called back very quickly, or even get the first interview to begin with because of reasons. I'll let our very intelligent audience figure those out. So.
Yeah, one of the things I used to when I was interviewing people, I would drop my pen on the floor to see if they would make a motion to pick it up for me, or did they sit there and wait on me to pick up my own pen? And then I knew I had a person that was going to be high maintenance, because you had high maintenance, low maintenance, and no maintenance. So you have to have a mixture of people.
Sure.
Even where you work. Even in your office, you're going to have some high maintenance people that they need to work with all the time. And then you've got low maintenance where people just go along. And then you got no maintenance where they don't even have to discuss things with them because they know they're rolling along and got everything going on and all that. So,
we don't look at it from that perspective. We look at it from a perspective of attitude and productivity. And what do I mean by that? So you have the high output, like high performers, you have the steady eddies, and you have the low output, low performers, right? And then of course you have a slight mix in between those. But, you know, we're looking for high output, high performers all the time. And it's not easy to find. That's for dang sure. And it's interesting to me to look at a steady eddy, which you need. You do need steady eddies. You're not going to have all high performers all the time. It's just going to be almost impossible to maintain that.
Right.
And find them. I mean, just actually find them. But there's such a juxtaposition of all three of those main candidates, right? That you got to look at, hey, average is not terrible if it's consistent, right? If it's consistency, just, no drama, no nothing. Just, they're not going to want to get it. They're not going to want to go the extra mile, but they're not going to pull anybody down with their averages because their average is fine, and you're going to have those people who are going to not be great and whatnot. So
it's consistent.
Yeah,
the ones that are consistent. Yeah.
The little job thing that you told me about, I think it was working at a pawn shop, was the guy who said, show me the number 3, right? And there are a billion ways, right? You could, well, I say that's technically not true, but, how do people do a 3? Like this? like this. The German 3 or the sign language 3 is this, right?
Yeah,
so,
I know a guy does that all the time, and I'm like,
right.
what is it? What is this?
1, 2, 3.
So. I can go 3, or I can go okay.
3. Well, no okay signs here.
Stop
Okay?
it. Yeah,
no. The Life in General podcast is in no way condone or appeal to the action of okay symbols.
Hand signals.
Yeah, hand gestures.
It's like, we're gonna steal. We're gonna steal
blood or whatever. Yeah, all that silliness. So, yeah. Yeah, we're going to steal second base. Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
it.
Somebody's going to wreck their car because I think we told them to slide or some silliness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. But
man, oh man,
yeah, it's something else. So yeah, like gas prices, Shanghai, we got all sorts of wild stuff happening. And I mean, and a new justice, it just means that you have another 40 years potentially of a generational change, because that's kind of what they are.
She's 57. She's 57 years
old. So 30, 40 years.
Judge Jackson.
Yeah.
Judge Jackson, a lifetime appointment. So she's 57. I believe is what the research, the lie they told me. But I have to say this. I can't believe, and I said it out loud too. I can't believe that the Atlanta Braves cannot string 2 wins together in a row. And I know that's off the rails from the justice conversation, but Atlanta can't string 2 wins together in a row. I mean, they'll get beat by the Nationals 11-2 one day, and then they'll come back the next day and they beat the Nationals 16-4.
Sure.
And then they come back the next day and they lose, 3-0 to the Nationals. And then it's like last night. They lost to the Padres, or night before last. They lost to the Padres. They do like 4 games at a time in a stance, and it's like they lose a game, win a game, lose a game, win a game. Yeah. I'm like, can you guys win 2 games in a row ever? I don't get it.
Well,
okay,
I said it. I was going to say that's going to come down to consistency of pitchers, because that's all that baseball seems like it is about now. Is you have a $10 million per team strategy of just how many pitchers you have, how many pitches they can do, who they need to pitch against, and et cetera, where I thought it was just incredible that the fact that they put this is how many pitches they've done this game, and now they say blah, 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 and it's just the statistics, albeit they are fun and interesting to engage with, but you took a game baseball that's mildly fun if you're playing it, and not fun in the slightest if you're watching, unless it's something crazy. It's playoff games or something.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, they're blowing that shit out of proportion with math, and that's not a bad thing, like I said, but you're taking something that we're talking about, the good old boys wanting to watch baseball, and be mildly entertained at best, and it's just something where a lot of people aren't going to give a shit. And hell, half the people who are watching that shit are drunk anyway, so they don't know what that math is.
If he's a good hitter, then why doesn't he hit good?
I would say it's actually better than the pitcher.
That was from rollerball.
That's fine, but
about the numbers.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's what sports is. I mean, look at, and we'll kind of end on this fun little topic of sports silliness. And the reason why I say silliness would be because watch any basketball game, watch any NBA basketball game, and watch the last 2 minutes. It's going to take you probably 15 to 20 to 30 minutes to complete 2 minutes of that, because each side has technical plus, on each side. And all it is foul, free throw, foul, free throw, foul, free throw, foul, free throw. There are so few moments of, okay, the points are this close, you're down, because once you have control of the game and you're up by let's say 8 or 10, I've seen it. You can go back and forth and score 10 points very quickly, but people know when the team's good enough, all you got to do is hang on to the ball, wind the clock down. Brady and the Patriots did it a lot when they would just hang on to the ball and eat time. Right? They were eating time before the 5-minute mark on the fourth quarter, saying, okay, you can't delay the game anymore because we know what's happening. And so they would, delay a game. Cool. We just wasted half a minute. Delay a game, half a minute. Well, as we all know, there's 15 minutes in a game of American football per quarter. And so that sort of thing, like that sort of strategy, it rubs me in the wrong way. Because I'm thinking to myself, okay, the job is to catch a ball here. It's not to like bring down a political party or system or anything. Like, don't strategize to the point where it ceases to become fun. And it's supposed to be kind of lighthearted a little bit. Where now I understand when thousands upon tens of thousands, even if not more, of that money is involved in terms of who's winning and who's yada yada. But it just seems to me like it becomes very much disingenuous when you start utilizing those strategies because it's about the love of the game. So, at least it should be.
I had a Canadian asking me, why I cheered for the Braves. And I said, well, Nashville was located between St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Atlanta.
Sure.
And Atlanta is probably the closest at 220 miles, so that's the closest pro team.
It was just proximity. Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, do you cheer for the Toronto Blue Jays or the Montreal Expos? And he went, Toronto. Well, why don't you cheer? So,
that's funny.
We didn't come to blows, but we had a good
hey, nothing wrong with the Blue Jays or nothing wrong with the Expos. It's all good.
Exactly. That's what I told him. I said, I like them all, man. I just like watching baseball.
So we knew something was wrong with you, but it's all good. We'll try to figure that out in the next episode. So awesome.
Please.
We'll polish off this turd here. Thank you all so very much for watching the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. This has been episode 48, and we will catch you all in the next episode.
See you.